Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Hit and Hustle, a special edition of Hit and Hustle from irishsportsdaily.com. I am your host, Greg Flamali, and with me, as always, is Jamie Ueyama. And we are here to discuss the commitment of five-star quarterback out of Michigan, the state of Michigan, CJ Carr. And let me tell you, there are legacy recruits, and then there are legacy recruits, okay? Imagine if Skip Holtz had a son who was a five-star quarterback
This
and
is pretty much the situation. Yeah.
he committed to Michigan like the sophomore year in high school, Jamie.
And he was, that would, I don't
And
think it'd
I've
go over well on the
listen,
boards.
listen, listen. I've tried to like not play up the Michigan angle too much because I don't want it to be like this whole thing. Because look, like CJ Carr, like that's not really about him, right? Like
Yeah.
the Michigan
You
stuff
don't want to
and,
take
and
it. You
all
don't
that.
want it to take away
Yeah,
from his
like
moment.
I
Yeah.
don't want it to be like his moment of us dunking on Michigan all the time. That's not like what this is for and everything. Like that's
It is
not
pretty
cool.
funny though.
It is, but when you see the photo that Matt Freeman from ISD, who was at the announcement, he was at the announcement, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was there. So the photo that Matt Freeman shows with Lloyd Carr there with CJ, and Lloyd Carr's got the Notre Dame hat on. Like that's you just
It's
love to see it.
fantastic.
You just love to
You
see
love
it.
to see it. You love to see it. Um, I mean, there's not really much else you can add on to it. That Skip Holtz thing, that is the analogy, right?
That's
Like,
what it is, man.
yeah.
And
Um,
it would be a big problem in the Notre Dame sphere
oh yeah.
if that was the situation. So Tim Jones, you know what? We're here for that. CJ Carr is my Kyle Hamilton because then CJ must know then that he must know my style because that's the Kyle Hamilton thing. Like he's my guy and everyone knows that. So thank you for joining the show, Tim Jones. Thank you for coming, and we're going to talk
I'm
about.
looking forward to Tim's spamming everyone on Twitter with just CJ Carr love for the next how many years or whatever. That'll
Yeah,
be
it's going to
great.
be great. First of all, spamming. Come on, that's
I
that's these are all they're
it
useful
sounds
tweets.
this was pretty fair. It's
They're
pretty fair.
useful tweets, Jamie.
There
Everyone
no,
thinks this.
I'm not there. Hey, I welcome. I like spam.
All right, good.
It's
All right. I
delicious.
mean, look, here I am, right? So people love the spam. So all right, so let's talk about CJ Carr, the player, right? Because you were down, you were at Irish Invasion last weekend, so you got to see him live and in person, right? And so, give me your impressions of CJ Carr. And then after you talk about that, we'll throw on his highlights. We'll talk about his highlights, but give me your live impressions of CJ Carr from last weekend.
Well, first of all, there is something to seeing these kids in person, specifically quarterbacks, seeing how they throw the ball, footwork, how the ball comes out of their hand, all that kind of stuff, velocity, arm strength. It's a lot easier to judge when you see them in person. So seeing him in person was great. Seeing that there was other good quarterbacks there too, like
Yeah.
Ryan Puglisi, who was there. I think he's going to be like, if not a top 10 quarterback in the 2024 class, maybe even a top 5. Like he's a really good, because he's got like the ball pops out of his hand. He's a really, really talented player. Um, and just comparing him to Carr, Carr just looked on another level than him even. And I think that says a lot because, Puglisi is really good. And I just think Carr, and I was talking with, IC's Christian McCollum about him, and Matt Freeman as well. And there's just something about everything looks easy to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just, there's a smoothness to his game. Like I said, like I'm going to call this guy CJ Smooth. He's just so smooth. Um, just footwork, the way the ball comes out of his hands. It's truly like, obviously you watch the highlights, the guy is a fantastic football player. There's a lot to appreciate about him. But when you see that in person and just his ability to kind of reset so quickly, just the flick of the wrist kind of stuff that he's doing. That's something that
Yeah.
we mentioned with Dante Moore as well. It's that same kind of thing, right? Where it's easy, it's natural arm talent. And obviously he's been well coached, and you can tell that he's been well coached, and there's a certain amount of polish to his game, but then he can also do things in terms of like arm angles and all that kind of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
is, you kind of like have to train for these days, and what happens with quarterbacks these days. Um, and it was all on display there, and it was impressive. It was very, very impressive. And I mean, I left there and I immediately boosted up my grade on him, and yeah, I mean, needless to say, and there was a lot of buzz about him possibly committing to Notre Dame either on that trip or soon after, and obviously it happened. But and I mean, you couldn't help but if but think that like Notre Dame fans were just going to be thrilled by this,
Yeah.
because he's a big time talent.
Yeah. So just to kind of like go back a little bit, there had been kind of buzz around CJ Carr for a couple months, and it was one of those
Yeah.
things where it's Lloyd Carr's grandson, right? It's like, I'm not going to get all into this because that's the last coach
Michigan beat
shared a
writers
national title.
poo-pooing it. They were like,
Yeah,
no,
like it
this
was
ain't
just
gonna happen.
the last Michigan coach who shared a national title, right? Like that's not a thing, but
Yeah.
but the buzz was there, and it was there, and people kept kind of talking about it, and he kept coming, kept saying nice things about Notre Dame, and then he shows up at the camp, and I think it was the Monday after, and I wake up and someone who sends me a message that's like, Matt put a prediction in for CJ Carr, and I thought, oh, if Matt's in, like I could see something happening quick then, because Matt's pretty conservative with that stuff, right? Like he doesn't throw around predictions. Like Irish Sports Daily, there's no incentive towards us making predictions, and like it doesn't. When he feels it, right? So when he put in a prediction, I was like, that's this could be an eminent thing, right? So, and obviously it was, and just watching the clips that Matt got, and I encourage everyone, you're on the YouTube channel now, go to Irish Sports Daily's YouTube channel. Matt's got 3 minutes of CJ Carr throwing at the thing, and I got to tell you, when you watch it, just like you described, like everything looks easy, natural, smooth, and it's like, it's hard for me to explain because I'm not into like the coach speak and everything. But I've played enough ball, and I've seen enough quarterbacks throw. It's like when you see a quarterback who throws a ball, it's like, I want to catch passes from him. You could just see it come out. It comes out tight. The ball is spinning nice, and it lands soft. And it's like you can just see it. And it's like, man, you want to be playing with someone like that. And then you see him in the drills and everything. Everything looks right where you want it to be. Everything is coming out nice, all one motion, right? And he still has like the ability. Like there were a couple reps there where you could see him throw off platform and that sort of thing. It's not a huge part of his game, but it's something he can do, right? So I came away super impressed with him just from the clips that Matt put. So I imagine live, like it must have been really good. Tell me some about his physical makeup, right? Because the listed 6'2", 190, some places 6'3". Like, tell me about how he the physical makeup of him.
He looks to me, he looks 6'2", 190. That looked pretty accurate. He's obviously, I mean, he's going into his junior year of high school this fall, so I mean, he still has plenty of time to add weight. I don't think he's ever going to be a huge guy. Maybe he's 6'3", like you said, but he won't. I don't think he's ever going to be like 230. Like the difference between we saw a couple days before, the Adrian Posse kid who had a Notre Dame offer. I mean, there's a stark difference in how those guys are built. He's like 6'4", like basically, 230 at this point. He's a big kid, and you can just see it already. Like he's probably going to be like 240, maybe even 250 pounds when he plays in college. So there's a different makeup. I would imagine like CJ Carr is probably going to be around 210 pounds. I mean, that's more than big enough to play quarterback, obviously, at the
Oh
college
yeah.
level. And he's not going to be, he's not a dual threat, right? So he's not going to be easy, even though he can run, but he's not going to be a guy who's asked to be a big part of the running game or anything like that, like a Buckner was this year, or we expect him to be this year. So I would say, yeah, like physical makeup, you just see it. And you know what? The thing that really stood out to me the most is I think you brought up the point too. It's a very catchable ball, but it's like it still has the zip.
Yeah.
So, and Matt brought it up on Power Hour when we were discussing it earlier this week, and he had seen him previously at the Under Armour camp, and I believe it was Ohio. It was in Ohio, and him and Ryan Montgomery, who's a 2025 quarterback who Notre Dame has already offered as well, they were the only two kids there who could throw the ball, and it was cutting through it was like 25 mile per hour winds, right? And they were the only guys who can do it. And I believe it because he just seeing it, you could see. So this is the big difference between him and a kid like Puglisi. Puglisi was like gripping and ripping it, right? And throwing it hard. You could tell like he's like motivated. He's trying to one up Carr, right? Like he's trying to show, hey, I'm as good as this guy or better than this guy. That's the kind of thing. And you can see that. And I mean, velocity wise, you could see they're similar, right? But Puglisi just shows a very heavier ball. And Carr is just it was just a more catchable ball. And I think that to me is the thing that stands out more. And I think you can kind of even see that on just his regular film, not even just in camp stuff or whatever. You can see that he throws a very catchable ball. And that isn't something that probably gets talked about enough. But it matters. It matters a lot. And I mean, yeah, like you said, receivers want to play with quarterbacks who throw that kind of ball. And why it's like, maybe some guys are cool with like playing with like the Brett Favre types who just, can just gun it or whatever. But there's a lot of other guys who are like, I want to play with this guy because he's got that arm when he can grip and rip it if he has to, but he also got the touch and he has that. And that's so important.
Yeah. I'm going to bring up this comment from Matt Lee, or a question. Don't you guys agree that his accuracy and placement with the ball or what make him look elite? What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's all part of it, but I think if you look at everything, and when I kind of put in my film Don't Lie, and I was just, in areas to improve, and of course everyone's got to improve, all parts of their game and stuff, right? Too, he's going to be a junior in high school. He's got plenty of room to improve. But you watch him; he doesn't have any like big noticeable weaknesses, and to me, that's what makes him elite. Is that, like you said, he's got accuracy, ball placement. You see that. You see the ability to escape. He's not just like a statue in the pocket. Like he's a guy who has a great feel for the rush, right? A guy who, even when he gets out of the pocket, he can throw on the one because he squares up and can make a throw, right? So he can improvise. He can do those things. He can win from the pocket. You see him like make a throw where he's looking off a safety and then drops a dime, drops one in the bucket to a guy down the seam, right? Like, he can do all these different things. And like I said, I saw the arm strength, the catchable ball, all these things. And it's like, that's the thing with him, is that he checks all these boxes, and why it's really hard to kind of like, I mean, I don't want to say like, nothing is ever guaranteed, but his floor is so high. And his ceiling's high, but his floor is so high because of all of those things. And that to me is what makes him elite. It's just putting all these pieces together. I mean, that's what makes him so special.
Yeah. Like when people ask me, like someone was asking me earlier today, like what is his weakness, or what is the thing that he has to work on? Like, to me, I don't see a weakness. He has to but what he has to work on is everything, because he's a sophomore, right? Like, take all the stuff you're good at and just get better, right? Just grow your game. And that's what everyone will do. Anyone who keeps up with the sport, like, they'll just get better at the things that they're already good at. But I don't see a part of his game as a passer where it's like, oh, I don't know if he can do this. Like he shows the ability to do all of it. I mean, and part of it is, accuracy and placement, right? Like he's good at those things. And we're going to pull up his highlights right now. We could talk through them. You're going to see everything. Like you're going to see him throw on the run. You're going to see him throw under pressure. You're going to see him throw deep. You're going to see him throw in cuts and out cuts and all those things. You're going to see him escape and show his athletic ability. So, I mean, he's got all the tools you want.
Well, I think Greg cut out for a second. So we'll just wait till he comes back. But yeah, I mean, we're going to look at these clips. And if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw like earlier in the week, I tweeted out a bunch of these too. So Greg's back.
I got to get a mouse. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So let's pull up I lost the highlights. Darn it. I'll bring them up. So anyway, keep talking what you were talking about.
Well, I was just saying, like, I was just like filling in the gap while you're gone, just saying, like, if they follow me on Twitter, you saw like I tweeted out a bunch of these throws that he made from his sophomore year, and I'm sure you're using some of these throws at the same with this here too, right? Like it's really, that's just the fact. It's just like the variety of things that he can do. It's not just like, oh my gosh, like look at this, just like seed he throws here or this or that or whatever. It's like the deep ball so great. It's like there's some guys, it's like all you see is deep ball. All you see is deep ball, and all you see is like screen game, right? And with Carr, you get to see like a wide variety of things.
Right. So let's throw these on, and Jamie, you could talk through them as they go. There it is.
Yeah, and just I mean, obviously, you just seen the deep ball here, and like that one, I always find it weird when someone drops the first one. I'm like, I could have let him a little bit more. I'm like the first throw, all he thinks whatever, but I mean, obviously, I mean it's a touchdown, so it's like tough to knock it, right? But you see, he throws a kind of, this is the really big time throw, slot fade, just drop a dime over the shoulder. That's a big time throw, right? And like that throw, it's like, you know what? There's going to be different things there where it's like, does he need to, how much velocity he has to put on a different thing? But he's always going to give his guy a shot, right? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. He's always going to give his guy a shot. And like, I think you see with some of these too, just like pocket movement. Here's him stepping up, throwing on the run, right? Like, that's just a big time play, right? It's a great catch by that guy too, but like it's a big time play to get the ball down there while you're on the move like that. And you
very easy to see him in Notre Dame's offense too, which is like some of the concepts that they're doing and everything. Like it all kind of translates. And one thing everyone's going to notice here, like scrambles to throw.
Yeah.
Right. Like here, he's scrambling around. He's looking.
So here, spin around. Out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and square up the shoulders. Boom. Makes like, I mean, should have been a sack. Should have been a sack, right? And like, yeah, you see, like, I mean, he has the ability to run and stuff too, but he just knows when to like get into a better position. He just has a good feel for the rush. And that one to me is the best throw that you can make, right? When he's like goes at second option, boom, quick decision, puts it in there. Like
in between three.
If that one's short, it's picked.
Yeah.
If it's too much to the left, the guy is getting his head decapitated, right? Like it has to be right in that perfect spot. And it is. And because he looks over, he freezes that safety, or that safety's there and making the play, right? Just a big time throw.
And it's off the back foot too.
Yeah. And this is like basically like Johnny football type stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Where he's doing that kind of thing, where he's escaping and all that, right? Like there's just a lot of that kind of stuff too, where you see, or just like, and that one too, you might not even think like, oh, whatever, he's just kind of throwing like quick fade, the guy's open, whatever. But it's just like, boom, top of the drop, see it go, right?
Yeah.
Those are important. Like those are important throws, right?
And it also shows like the fact that it came out so quickly in rhythm and everything, that means pre-snap he saw that it would be there and he went to it, right? So that shows a certain amount of recognition from the quarterback position. It's like, I know where I should go with the ball right away.
Yeah.
There's a deep out right there.
Deep out, tough throw, right on time too, right? On time, guys breaking out, the ball's there, right? Here again, escape. Look at that. Turn, spin. Like that is just, I mean,
The defense has got to be sick. You designed a winning play.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just
so that one too, like, okay, so that's what we're talking about. And I know we already say, oh, the ball placement, but like you see throws sometimes where it's like the ball placement isn't great. This wasn't a great throw here, right? This one, if he puts it in front, the guy's still running, right? Like
so
he had
something to work on.
Yeah. But like it's not like a bad throw. It's just not like an unbelievable throw, right? Where you see like you can just see too, and I think some of that is because it comes so easy to him, right? That it's just going to be like more like through 64% completion percentage this year, it's probably going to be 70. That's just the probably thing it's going to be at. He's going to keep getting better and better at it, and that right there, RPO, boom, in motion, in stride, like. Great.
So I'll tell you what this play reminds me of. Alabama scored a touchdown on Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl on this exact play where they run an RPO, and this was Devontae Smith against McLeod, and he just runs a quick slant off the RPO game, and it went exactly like this. So I mean that's the kind of a thing, like this is what Notre Dame is looking for, right? Like the RPO game and all that sort of thing.
And even though that looks like a big window, you could see how quick that tightens up. And if he's a split second late, then that guy's not scoring a touchdown. But it's just right on time, right where it needs to be, touchdown.
Right. Another one up the seam.
Yeah.
In front of the linebacker.
And like obviously Notre Dame's obviously going to have elite tight ends too, right? You can just picture him to like throw into an Eli Reardon or that type of guy in a thing like. Obviously Jack Larson was working at this camp, right? Like that's a dude that is probably going to want to play with CJ Carr, right?
I want to show this play again because the ball placement, right? Like that one's out in front, and he's able to make a move on the safety, and he's off to the races, So
and another one that's in rhythm, right? Rhythm off the ball fake, like perfect.
There's a hand in his face. Perfect throw.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, like, look.
Obviously, he's pretty good.
He's a big-time player, right? Like he's a 5-star for a reason, and that's what everyone says. So, these are the types of things that he can do. And here's another one. Improvising, spinning around, chucking. Great throw. So, Jamie, let's talk about what this could mean for the 2020. Let's talk about 2024 first. Just what could it mean for the class that he is in? Because you guys, like you and Matt, again, we're in Christian, we're at the camp, and one thing I noticed, a lot of the wideouts. First of all, you mentioned Jack Larson, right? So that's one where it's like that's easy to see. Those two had a chemistry right away. You could see that working out for Notre Dame down the line, right? And then there were a couple of receivers who were working well at the camp, did a really good job. Midwest guys, Indiana guys, and highly rated prospects, right? So tell me about what this kind of a move does for Notre Dame, what it could mean for the class in 2024.
I mean, it's huge. It's huge, especially because, like you said, there's Midwest guys that are like elite recruits. It's not like just guys that were at, and it like worked out that they were all at the camp too, right? And that's the other thing. It's one thing to be like, oh, this guy's a 5-star. It's another thing to be like, oh, this guy threw to me, and I'm like, oh, this guy's a dude. Like, you get that feel there. And so Cam Williams, who was he's 4-star from Illinois. He's going to be, he ran very fast at the camp. His 40 was blazing, and he just looked like a dude all around. Like he looks like he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's a guy Notre Dame's already going to have a good shot at. And you get CJ Carr, and he was vibing with CJ Carr when he's there. That's a guy CJ Carr is going to be in on. Like Mylan Graham's another kid from Fort Wayne, right? And everybody knows that like Fort Wayne's been very good to Notre Dame, right? And that's a kid who I mean, he's blown up right now. He got an Ohio State offer. He got a Michigan offer as well. Like, he's going to have a lot of attention. So I don't think he's going to decide anytime soon. But I mean, chances are, like, Notre Dame's going to be in it for him. And when you have CJ Carr in the class and Michigan, I mean, I don't know who they're going to get. So Ohio State, they got Raiola, right? And he's a stud, Dylan Raiola. But like, now you got CJ Carr. So it's not like just Raiola just means like, well, we got Dylan Raiola. It's like, well, they got somebody too. Like, that helps. It really does. It really does. And I think, obviously over time, there's going to be like other guys that pop up, and there's some of these other kids too. And it's one of the reasons, whatever. And I don't want to bring up Dante Moore too much in this, but like, it's one of the reasons why people, Notre Dame fans frustrated by the Dante Moore thing, because they want him so bad because he's so great, but they also want him because they know receiver's such an important position for Notre Dame and such a position of need. And getting that top quarterback really helps solidify, the recruiting of those guys. And that's what Carr automatically does. And for him to be in the boat this early, like, I mean, he's going to have like basically like a year and a half of recruiting these guys and like developing relationships. So the coaches are developing a relationship. Tommy Reese's, Chauncey Stuckey, etc. But like Marcus Freeman, obviously, Chad Bowden. But like, now you're going to have that quarterback who's going to develop that relationship too. And I mean, it's huge. It's very, very big.
Not just that, he's local. He'll be at Notre Dame State. He might be at every home game. Like he will be around all the time. If Cam Williams wants to come to a game, CJ Carr is going to be at the game.
Yeah.
Right. If Mylan Graham's going to be at a game, CJ Carr is going to be at a game. Right. And that's such a big thing. And it's like you mentioned Dante Moore, right? Like, that's what people felt like was possible with him. Just like Drake Bowen, right?
Yeah.
Drake Bowen, anytime any recruit is in town, Drake Bowen's going to come. And he's going to hang out with them.
Blake
right?
Fisher, the same thing.
Blake Fisher, right? Same thing, right? Like, and just like the fact that CJ Carr is.
Everybody remembers Braxton Cave in that one class, right? That was an important guy in that class because he was like the local guy who was always there. And it matters.
Let's say Nico was the quarterback, right? There's as an example, because he's a California kid. If Nico he's California, right? He can't just drive down to South Bend whenever he wants, and it makes a difference, right? And so that is such a big part of this too, not just for 2024. Like, what do you think this could do for the 2023 guys, right? Because obviously he's a year behind, and they already have Braylon James in the class. You have Rico Flores is on a visit right now. You have Ronan Hannafin. You have Jaden Greathouse, who I don't know if he's this weekend, next weekend.
Yeah.
So you have these guys on campus. Christian Hamilton's going to be coming in for an official visit. And what could that mean for the 2023 group?
I don't know if it's going to mean that much for the 2023 group. To be honest too, like, not that Dante Moore or any big quarterback in the 2023 class would help too, but I kind of feel like they're further along with those guys that it's not going to be like a huge like deal breaker for any of them, right? I think it helps, but I also don't know, like somebody asked me like why would anyone care about having a quarterback in their class? Because chances are they're not going to be, like, a lot of times the quarterback in that class isn't the guy, right? Like that becomes your quarterback for most of the time you're there, right? So it's like Carr could be the quarterback for them, but it's like Buckner could be, Steve Angeli, whatever, right? Like it could be any of these guys, right? And so why does it matter? Well, the reason why it matters to have a 2023 quarterback and not a 2024 quarterback is because, one, almost all of these guys think, man, 3 years and I'm out.
3 and out. Yeah.
They think they're that good, right? It's not even like just an education thing. Also at Notre Dame, they're like telling you, like, try to get your degree in 3 years, right?
Right. Like, if you're going to early enrollee, That's
They're
you're
like,
on
get
track.
your degree, go to the league,
Right.
perfect, right? So that's the way those guys think. So if they think that, and then there's a quarterback going to come in the year after them, it's like, what are the odds of how much am I going to play with this guy? Is he going to be ready year one? What if he's ready year two? What if he's not? What if there's another guy? Like, there's a lot of things there. And then it's like, even with that person in your class, it's like, he'll always be there, kind of thing. Right. So it's like, that's why it's like, Notre Dame can say somewhat to be like, man, Buckner's going to be great, or, Steve Angeli's going to be great. But it's like, one thing to just say that, and another thing for there to be like visual evidence of it, and they haven't proven that it on the field yet. So it's and so that's why the kind of stuff like Elite 11 matters, all that kind of stuff, like all that kind of stuff just adds up, because it's like, that's validation for these guys who aren't like going down and breaking down every throw. They're not looking at all that kind of stuff too, right? So I mean, it doesn't hurt for the 2023 kids, but I sincerely doubt there's going to be any one of those guys like is going to be like, one of the factors was CJ Carr's commitment. Like, I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it.
It's one of those things, like, I don't like, it won't be a factor in a commitment, but it could be one of those things where it, like, I don't want to say subconsciously, but it's a solidifier, because there isn't, because there could be an unknown, right? Like, let's say that you don't land Dante, right? Or you don't land I don't know, a highly rated quarterback in 2023, right? And then it's like, okay, beyond Buckner, what is there, right? Because Buckner is going to be a huge part of this for 2023 and 2024, right? Like, just straight up, right? He's like super important player as far as like recruiting and everything. Because whoever commits to Notre Dame, right? Like, if it's a 5-star quarterback in 23 or CJ Carr in 2024. If Tyler Buckner doesn't have a good year and things don't go very well, I mean,
that's going to hurt Notre Dame a lot,
big time, right? So he's a super important player. But I think that I think it helps those guys know too, because here's the other part of it too. I was thinking about today. Notre Dame, when was the last time Notre Dame had like real chances for 3 5-star players within, actually 4, because Vizina has become a 5-star player, and they were a serious player for him, right? So you had Vizina and Moore in this class, and you have Sayin and Carr in 2024. I mean, these are all 5-star quarterbacks who were very seriously considering Notre Dame, right? And not just that, but like, people considered Notre Dame to be the leader for Dante Moore. And obviously they were the leader for CJ Carr, and people thought, Julian Sayin would be a really good option as well. So I think for recruits at receiver or whoever, like, the juice is good, right? And you want to be a part of a program like that. Like, it's not like CJ Carr was kind of an anomaly, right? Like, kind of a one-off where he was the Notre Dame legacy. Like, this is actually the opposite. So I think in that sense for 2023, it's like, okay, they're going to be able to bring in guys. Like, they're going to be able to bring in guys. They're going to be able to recruit guys. I want to be a part of that too.
Yeah.
And I think for 2024, I think it'll make a huge difference, because CJ Carr, I think a big part of wanting to get in early, it's like, yeah, I want to, I'm ready to commit. But he said, when he announced his commitment, the date, he said, I want to commit and I want to start recruiting like for the school. So he's super into that.
I think frankly, it's hugely important. And I think one of the things with Notre Dame at quarterbacks is that they never really had one of those guys who could, it's been a long time since they had one of those quarterbacks who really like galvanized the recruiting class. Probably the last one was probably like Malik Zaire. In like, I mean, obviously it didn't work out for him, but I'm just saying, like, he had the personality that, and like, if there were the people who were doing like Elite 11, all that stuff, like, people were big believers in him because of like self-confidence and all that kind of stuff too, right? And it's why, like, people thought he was going to be great at Notre Dame too, because he had this kind of like swag about him, right? And And really, if you look at like all the guys since then at Notre Dame, like Kaiser didn't have that. He tried to like fake it later on, but he's never really carried himself that way. Ian Book wasn't a big enough recruit
They weren't
to,
recruits, yeah.
yeah,
And
and like
Brandon wasn't like that either.
no, he wasn't like that. And then even though like his ranking would have suggested whatever, but that's not his personality,
Right.
right? So he wasn't that kind of guy. And he like committed in October. They flipped him, right? I think like weirdly, even though he didn't end up being good, Barnett could have been a guy who helped with that kind of stuff. But
Blake Barnett,
who was
yeah,
committed in that same class, right?
yeah,
And then you just look at like, Brendan Clark obviously was not like a high profile guy, right? That was like a guy they like fell back on. Phil Dracovic was a pretty big recruit, but he wasn't like a vocal kind of guy. Like he didn't have that kind of personality that carried at that.
right.
And then, and also he didn't make Elite 11. Like I know I bring that up. It really doesn't matter that much in the grand scheme of things, but it matters in terms of like, you were at Elite 11, you were at the opening, you were around these other guys. You were doing that. And like when Phil Dracovic was doing it, he's the same class as Trevor Lawrence and he's on his team. And like Trevor Lawrence is that dude. And so Dracovic couldn't be that dude. You know what I mean? Like, so there's that kind of thing. And then just Buckner too, even though as like prolific as he was and great and stuff too, he's also not the kind of personality to be like, just he's like the polar opposite of a Malik Zaire, right? So
Yeah.
And not even to say that like CJ Carr's got like this huge personality or whatever, but it's just, obviously he's going to be proactive with it. And
Right.
I think that matters. And getting in this early, it matters.
Yeah. And I wonder what your quarterbacks were like when you played, because I played with a quarterback who he just had this aura of confidence and arrogance, not a jerk. You know what I mean? Like some guys just they know they're the stuff, and they exude it, and they bring everyone with them. Like everyone wants to be kind of like around them, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that personality. And you and Matt were talking about on Power Hour this week about how he had that type of personality, just like walking around the camp and talking to other guys in the camp, and fist bumps and high fives and all those things, right? Like just total confidence and
it was
control.
genuine though too. That's another thing, because there's some guys who they know that you need to do that, so they fake it. But it wasn't. It was just like that's just who he was, right? So
Right.
Yeah, that is a good point. That's a great point, and I think that like being genuine about it is because you got to be who you are, and that's why too. If Buckner tried to do something that wasn't who he was, it wouldn't have worked anyways. That's not who he is. So
it's kind of like Freeman too, right? Like it's just everyone talks about it because it's just the way he is, and there's not everyone can be like that, and not everyone is like that. And I think it's just a really good thing that that Carr has going for him, and as far as the recruiting aspect and everything, that's why like being on campus for him is going to be such a huge thing, because he has that type of personality. So obviously huge deal. And we're going to get into the questions that we posted, or that the Irish Sports Daily customers got for us earlier today. And before I get to those, thank you to everyone for tuning in right now. We're still going to go with questions, but thank you for tuning in. If you're first time here, if you're first time watching this channel, watching us do a live show, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Visit irishsportsdaily.com. There's a ton of info. Matt posted, Christian posted. Christian's had a ton of great info nuggets, not just on CJ Carr, but 2024 recruits. He's posted a lot of information on Dante Moore on the message board a couple of days ago. You should definitely sign in and subscribe for that. It's really good info. And now that, the summer's coming, there's going to be a lot more shows for Hit and Hustle, right? So my school year's over. I'm probably going to be doing at least 3 times a week shows. The content's going to be coming out all the way through the season. So there's going to be a lot more. Hang with us. We're going to have a lot of fun stuff coming up for you as the summer gets going into the fall and into the season. So we're going to start with the first question from Irish Badger. Probably too early to tell, but on a scale of will take all 5 visits to Notre Dame tattoo, how strong do you expect Carr's commitment to be? NIL plus Reese very likely will be gone. Will always create a crack in the foundation.
Well, I would say closer to ND tattoo than we'll take all 5 visits. I don't think he's going to be a guy who takes any visits.
I don't think so either. I mean,
I don't think so. So, I also don't think NIL is going to be a big deal for him because look, like NIL is different for a lot of these kids because there's some kids that don't need the NIL. Like
right.
Their family, they're not looking for something because their family like needs it. And they're like, it's like some guys go pro because they're like, I want to get paid because, I want to help out my family now. Right. Like there's a lot of guys who look at it that way. And I mean, his family's not hurting, you know what I mean? They're going to be fine no matter what happens. So I don't think that'll be a factor with him. And plus, he's a big time quarterback. I mean, he's going to get like NIL money thrown his way, anyways. So it's not something he's going to have to worry about. The thing about Rees being gone, that's just one of those things. It's like, who knows? Who knows, really? And I think if Rees left, I think that would have an impact for sure. But it's like one of those things. It's like, okay, so Rees knows he's got CJ Carr in the boat, and then he's probably going to get a good 2023 quarterback too, and things are going good here. And he's going to leave for what? Like it would have to be like a head coaching job or an NFL OC job, and it's very rare for a college OC to become an NFL OC. It just doesn't happen a lot unless you have previous connections. Like it could happen, but probably not likely. And head coach, I mean, it would have to be the right job at the right time, whatever. And like, could there be somebody who throws him a bag like Miami tried to throw him a bag, whatever? Like, yeah, I guess so. But like, I don't know. Like it didn't happen this year, so we'll see. I don't know. I have a feeling Rees will be around at least a couple more years before, and then like probably when we'll be a head coach somewhere when something comes up.
And just on NIL, like in my opinion, this is the advantage of committing early because he just seems like he's going to have a lot of opportunities just endorsement wise. Right. And he's well-spoken kid, like good looking kid, quarterback. He's going to be in Notre Dame's class for at least 2 years. Like there's so much time to like gear up for his whatever they want to do. Like he's going to have a ton of opportunity. Like look at all the opportunities that Kyle Hamilton got when NIL like popped up during the off season of his junior year, and he was able to take advantage. Like imagine what CJ Carr could do in the run up for 2 years as the Notre Dame quarterback.
I've always said that there's no one who's going to get paid more than if Notre Dame has like the dude at quarterback. Like Brady Quinn would have got paid. He would have got paid big time while he was in school. And like CJ Carr basically is committed, whatever, like you said, the earlier commitment, because it's not like they don't have to buy him. He's committed. You know what I mean? So it's like there'll be people who want to be a part of what he's doing, or like they want to be associated with him. There's gonna be stuff thrown his way, like by whatever Notre Dame collectives or people who want to sponsor, whatever. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next question. Keenan Knight, what former Notre Dame and NFL quarterbacks non-ND does Carr's game most resemble? Same for Dante Moore.
Well, I'm just gonna pick. I'm gonna pick NFL guys just because it's like we're talking about guys who are like older and way more developed. So it's like I'm talking about high school guys comparing to NFL guys. So I always do the college guys because when I'm doing my evaluations, I'm projecting them to college.
Yeah.
I always think it's dumb to be like, man, I really just think this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. I'm just like, how about he plays some college football first before we start doing this? Like, so for Carr, I put like end of his career, Kenny Pickett. That was the guy that I put. Obviously, he was a first round pick. Like, but I mean, just that kind of athleticism, ability to escape, also just like the touch, can throw the deep ball, that kind of thing. I mean, I think he could probably be even better than that. But that was the guy to me his game most resembled. And for Dante Moore, we talked about this on, I think we did a previous show about it, Hidden Hustle about it. Was Bryce Young.
Yeah,
that was the guy for both of us, I believe.
Yeah. I'm gonna say Joe Burrow for CJ Carr. Especially as a high school player, like I think what Joe Burrow became obviously is something, but I think the athleticism is similar. I think the arm strength is similar. I think the type of
I think
game
it's a pretty good one.
So I'm gonna say Joe Burrow. I'm gonna roll with that. I feel good about it. I'm in a good mood today too, and plus it probably makes Matt very happy, and that's what we want, right? We always want Matt in a good mood.
Yeah.
All right. Ghost Revival 2008. Is Carr the best quarterback prospect who has committed to Notre Dame in the modern era of college football, meaning since the 1970s?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know like who committed in the 80s that was amazing or whatever, that I was like, man, this guy was supposed to be the dude. Like,
Ron Paulus was like...
Ron Paulus feels like that was when I was like first getting into Notre Dame football. And
but his commitment was like arch.
Yeah. Like
they predicted he'd win 2 Heisman.
Yeah. Bino Cook, 2 Heismans, right? And I can't remember if that was
at the time. It was like, it's like, that's crazy, but he's really good.
He was supposed to be the starter for that 1993 team, right? Like where, obviously McDougal was the starter, right?
Yes.
But like he was supposed to come in and be the guy right away, right? So, and obviously it didn't happen, but just like, like I honestly too, Clausen and Paulus were both like top guys in the class. I don't know if Paulus was the top guy in the class. I think he was, but I don't. I mean, I wasn't following it during that time to know that like Alan Wallace had him as super prep number 1 or whatever. But Jimmy Clausen was definitely like the hands down number
talked
1.
About him like he was
so
John Elway.
I think whatever, everybody comes up, Buckner, Djokovic, like CJ Carr, and maybe CJ Carr will be the top guy, but like, I mean, Jimmy Clausen, whatever. I don't care if people say he wasn't that good. He was rated higher than CJ Carr. Jimmy Clausen was like anointed early that he was going to be the guy. So, and I don't care too that like whatever. Ghost Revival mentioned that he was a mobile too. Like people didn't see the game the same way then, right? It was like no one was thinking about like this guy's got to like escape the rush and got to be able to improv, whatever. It was more like just win from the pocket. I mean, so there's a lot of guys who succeeded in the old game compared to the modern game, like the current, like last like even 5-10 years or whatever. It'd be just different. Like I don't know. Like I mean, if I'm comparing, I would say, oh yeah, I think I like Carr better than Jimmy Clausen. But it's like, I mean, at the time, like we're talking about, like Jimmy Clausen was just on another stratosphere in terms of where he's rated, and like, I mean, the guy was pretty damn good too.
Like, the other thing too is like that was Jimmy Clausen playing the Charlie Weiss offense too.
Yeah,
like we think about him in a different kind of way now because he was just he wasn't a mobile guy, but no one had to be mobile then, right? At least not in
it was not the same.
You were looking for like Tom Brady. That's what they were looking for,
Well, it's like if like how Jarius Jackson, if Jarius Jackson played today, he would have been like a 5-star. He would have been like, because absolutely was this big dude with a big arm and mobile, could run, and like he would have been used all these different ways, like zone read stuff. He would have been great, right? But it's just like in the era, he was just like stuck in between almost, right? And he was very good at Notre Dame, but I'm just saying, like, it's just like it's just a completely different era. So it's hard. So even though, he's saying the modern era, like really, like there's like different tiers along the way that it just
Yeah.
breaks up, right? So it's like, I mean, I don't really know, like, like if I was gonna say, like, of course you put up like CJ Carr's highlights next to Ron Powell's highlights, and you're like, Ron Powell sucks compared to CJ Carr, even though he didn't suck, but at the time he was amazing,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like
Right.
the game's changed.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. PD9. Which 2023 quarterbacks do you feel the Irish should look at with focus trending away from Moore? Thoughts on Ricky Collins, Purdue commit, Avery Johnson, any others out there intriguing to help depth bridge gap until Carr arrives in 2024?
Well, one, I really like Ricky Collins. You know what? I don't, first of all, I don't really know enough of the guys, and I'm like, there's enough like new 2024 kids and all this stuff that are popping up there that when names start going around, that's when I start looking. Unless like I know that like I need to start looking. Until that kind of happens, and I don't know that at this time, so I haven't really done a ton of research on a lot of the kids that Notre Dame hasn't offered yet in
Yeah.
2023. So, but I have watched Ricky Collins because I watched him, like, because I think Notre Dame was thinking about offering him at earlier on, but then didn't. But I really, really like him. He's got he's got a really, really good arm, great in face of pressure. Just like him in general. Like
Yeah.
I just think he's a really good prospect, and I don't think he's going to end up at Purdue. Like I think he's better than Purdue and probably end up better than that. And Avery Johnson, one, I always thought Avery Johnson was super underrated and is an exceptional athlete. Exceptional. Like
Yes.
honestly, like don't think there's a better running quarterback. Or there can't be too many, right?
Right.
Like so I think because of that too, and I think there's a lot to his game in terms of like his arm and stuff too that's going to get better. And I really, really like him. I think he's like a top 100 level kid, really. And I might be too late to get back in with him, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Like I mean, I obviously have no idea what direction they're going to go, but I mean, I like both those guys. So if they were to end up with either one of those guys, I think I mean, it's a pretty good fallback if that was the case.
Yeah. I was messaging with Matt earlier this week, and he told me to check out Brock Glenn. He's a 3-star quarterback, and I really liked his film. I thought he was a good player. So if Notre Dame got in on someone like him, I think that would be really good. The thing that kind of concerns me with Avery Johnson and Ricky Collins is like I really like those guys too. And if they were the quarterback in the 2023 class, like I'd be really happy with that. The thing for me is I feel like those guys are too highly rated for what at least the perception is of what Notre Dame is looking for, because CJ Carr is kind of the golden goose of this whole thing, right? And everyone's going to kind of see those other two guys as like as kind of like the bridge quarterback between Buckner and between Buckner and CJ Carr, and like those guys could be the centerpieces of a class, for another school, right? So how do they feel about potentially being a bridge quarterback, right? Like in theory, like I freaking would love them, right? Like I think they're really good prospects, especially Avery Johnson. I thought Ricky Collins reminded me of like a better version of Everett Golson in high school. Like I love the way he throws the ball. And like you said, Avery Johnson is an incredible athlete. So I would take either one, but like to me, that would be a hard sell for them, especially because Notre Dame hasn't been talking to him, right? They've been talking to Moore and they've been talking to CJ Carr and Julian Sayin, right? So it's just kind of like,
I could see that Johnson being whatever, like being upset because, he had an offer and then I think he wanted to be in the class and they didn't want him. So I could totally see that. But I don't think like Ricky Collins, like, I don't, I mean, he's getting like more offers from big schools. Like a lot of these guys just want to be like, the guys who really are, that dude, they're just like, oh, Notre Dame's offer, that's the biggest, can win a natty there. I'm like,
Okay.
I don't care. I don't care about CJ Carr. Who's
Yeah.
CJ Carr? Like Tyler Buckner? Never seen this guy before. Like they don't, that's honestly, that's how a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of the guys think, right? It's like that's how Malik Zaire think. I mean, he probably should have thought more realistically, but like that's whatever. But a lot of that is what makes guys great, right? It's like almost irrational confidence, right? So I don't know. Like, I think too, like Ian Book, one of the reasons he was so good too is like, I don't think he was like cocky about it, but he was super, super confident. He was always like, I'm better. I'm better than Brandon Wimbush,
Yeah.
whatever. And he's like, and that's one of the reasons why he ended up being better than Brandon Wimbush, where Brandon Wimbush was like, his problem was like, he probably didn't have enough of that. If he probably believed himself the same way, then he probably would have ended up being a lot better.
Yeah. All right. Let's kind of let the elephant, like something. What are the elephant in the room? Let's address that now, and then we'll move on. This is from Jaboski. Is Moore out, or are we still going with him? Everyone wants to know the latest.
I mean, I don't know what the latest is in terms of like, I don't think the door is closed and people want to know, like, what does that mean? Like, I'm like, it means that they haven't told Dante Moore, like, nah, this is it. We're not recruiting you anymore. Like, but also too, like, who knows where it stands? Like, is this guy like still going to take all these other visits in June and not come to Notre Dame? Like, when is he coming to Notre Dame again? Like, it's been a long time since he's been in Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
Now that you think about it, considering all the other places he's been. So I mean, I don't know what to think there. I would think that, like, I think if, like, and we've talked about hypothetically, if he was like, hey, I want to commit, like, I'm going to publicly commit like tomorrow. I mean, I think they'd be dumb to be like, now we're good, right? Like, I think that would be stupid, but like, I don't know. I think they'd probably have some questions for him if he said that. They're like, that's great, we want you, but why? Like, why is this now? Like, we just want to know, like, what's going on, because I mean, nothing that they've shown has shown any indication that you're like that like, like a couple days ago you were talking about taking it into the fall, right? Like, what changed? Like, all this kind of stuff matters. It's like, and the whole, like, Mike Frank always mentions it, and it's very true. It's like, don't just listen to what they say, watch what they do, right? And that's the main thing. And like, well, watch what he's done. He's been a couple places twice since he's been in Notre Dame, right? So it's like, I don't know what to say. And yeah, you keep hearing all the same things, like all these places things like, oh, he's going to Notre Dame, whatever. It's like, well, how come he's not back? How come he's not here on June 10th or June 17th? Right? Why is he not recruiting these receivers that are going to be on June 10th? Why is he not there on June 17th? Well, June 10th, he has a whatever. He has a football conflict or whatever, right? But it's like June 17th, he's going to Texas A&M. It's like,
you would make a plan.
What's I mean, I totally understand. So it's like, I just think that, like, this is not what I'm hearing. This is just my opinion. Like, you don't plan on him being in the class. Go to plan B now. And then if he wants to come, you'd be like, heck yeah. Like, still recruit him, whatever. But like, if he doesn't want to, if like he's not showing that he's going to do it, and if someone is like, you think someone else is going to commit, you tell Dante Moore, like, this guy's going to commit and we're going to take him. Unless you tell us you're coming and you're shutting things down. Like, if they want to do that, I think that is how I would approach it. I don't know for sure how Notre Dame's going to approach it, because I think everything changes with Dante Moore on a weekly basis.
It has the feel to me as if the relationship it has changed in some kind of way, and I think that everyone has noticed it, right? Like, I think everyone who has followed recruiting has noticed something is different. No one really knows what it is, and like everything is kind of like fluid with the whole situation, but something is different, and I think Notre Dame noticed it too. And so the idea that like Notre Dame's I don't think they're gonna call him and be like, hey, we're done. Like,
Yeah.
good luck and good, wherever you end up. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But at the same time, I think they are kind of to the point where we can't recruit you any more than we have. Like, we can't show you and tell you that you are our guy any more than we have. And here we are. We don't know when you're going to visit. We don't know when things are going to happen. We're going to the fall. To your point, like you've kind of said this like pretty consistently over the last, I don't know, month or so, where it's like Notre Dame can't go empty in 2023. They just cannot.
No,
they need
cannot.
someone, because that after this year, Drew Pine is probably going to transfer. He's going to have his degree, and he's probably going to move on.
Unless Drew Pine is the starter, he's going to go.
Right, as he should.
And he should.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think that that's the thing is there's kind of like in my opinion, I don't think Notre Dame knows exactly where things stand at the moment. And I'm not sure that anyone really does. So that's kind of like the update is what's true today could be different tomorrow. It could be different in a week. And so that's kind of where it all is. And that's not even like, not holding back information. I talked to Matt and I talked to Christian too, and everyone kind of says the same thing. Like, this is what could happen. There are some other things that could happen as well. No one really knows.
It changes. And I mean, and whatever, it's recruiting that, like, it's whatever, but just this recruitment in particular is just even more volatile than some of these other ones.
Right. Let's see. Besides Jerry Faust, besides Carr, anyone on commitment watch this weekend?
Well, yeah. Elijah Page is someone who could commit. He's a 2023 offensive tackle from Arizona. In my opinion, a super underrated kid. I think he's very, very good. And that's one to watch out for.
Yeah. All right, Alaskan, we kind of already mentioned this, but I wanted to just read it just because you submitted a question and wanted you to think that we didn't see it. Would like to hear your thoughts on the evolution of quarterback recruiting. Moore's recruitment has been strange. Then Carr commits out of the blue. What 23 quarterbacks will you be looking at going forward? We kind of talked about that just a second ago. Irish D3, if Carr commits to Notre Dame tonight, what type of impact do you think they'll have on 2023 receivers? Do you think his commitment would be enough to convince the main 23 targets to commit? We talked about that earlier as well. Jamie, do you have anything that you wanted to add on to that, or do you want
to? I guess the evolution of quarterback recruiting is that one, which is why the Dante Moore thing is so different, is because the evolution of it is guys commit earlier than ever. Like, when's the last time Ohio State and Notre Dame had a top quarterback recruit in the next class before they had one in the current class? Like, that doesn't happen. Like, so Dylan Raiola and CJ Carr, two of the top quarterbacks in the 2024 class, and they're already off the board. Yet those guys, they don't have a 2023 quarterback. Neither school has a commitment, right? So that I guess is how it's changed, because that's not regular. But so it's like guys are committing earlier than ever, and a lot of it is because it's like, I want to win a natty, I got to play with great players, so that's whatever. But then there's also guys like, I mean, Nico, like, I mean, I don't think he's thinking about winning the natty. I think he's about getting that bag. right? So
Right.
he got the bag, and that's why he's going to Tennessee.
Yeah. All right. This is from D. Lemire 7. What has been y'all's biggest evaluation miss in a good way?
Mine was Jerry Tillery at defensive tackle. I did not think I thought, I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. He's going to play out. He's going to go back to offensive tackle. They'll start him at D tackle, and then he'll end up being a left tackle for Notre Dame, and a good one. But I just, you know what? I mean, there was obviously a lot of buzz about him as like a potential defensive tackle, while he was a senior. And I watched him play a playoff game. I believe they were playing John Curtis in Louisiana, and I watched that game. And to be honest, he was playing both ways, right? Like literally never left the field. And so in fairness, he was probably dog tired, but at the same time, he was not good on defense tackle in that game. He was like lazy. He was not running to the ball. I was like, I haven't seen this guy make one play. I don't think this guy can play defensive tackle in college. I'm like, what am I missing here? Obviously, it was one game, right? Like, so I just based it off one game. It's also I took it as a lesson learned too. So I'm like, well, sometimes you got to see more than, because if you only get a snippet, it's just like going to a camp and you see one thing. It's like, I'm always ready to like boost somebody up at a camp, but I don't want to just like tear somebody down after it, because who knows if it's like a bad day? Who knows the circumstances that are doing it? And I think probably with Tillery, probably a lot of it was like you're being asked him too much. He's played like 140 plays in the game or whatever, right? Like it was ridiculous. So I think like that probably had a lot to do with it. I mean, I definitely didn't think he was going to be, I didn't think he was going to be defensive lineman at Notre Dame. I definitely did not think he was going to be a first round pick. So yeah, he definitely surprised me and ended up having, obviously his, his first couple of years, a bit of disappointment, but, his junior year, he played great at nose, and 3 technique is like awesome. His last year became a first round pick. So good for him.
Yeah. I mean, this one's kind of hard for me. Because most of my misses are the negative. Like I thought, I thought Max Redfield was going to be like special. And
I think most people were with you. They thought that too.
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you a really good one is Will Fuller. When he was recruited, I thought he was fine, right? Like, he's fine.
Yeah.
And then, he came out and it was like, oh, he's, I remember reports like Will Fuller, like super speed guy. And I was like, no, he is not. He is not a super speed guy. And,
he didn't run a fast 40 either. Like he was like at a night camp, he ran like a high 4.5s or something. He didn't look anything like the blazing guy that he became at Notre Dame. So,
and so there was so much juice about him in 2014 in like the off season or the fall camp. I was like, man, come on. And then they threw them the post against Rice when he was open by like 10 yards. And I was like, oh boy, we got something good. So that's probably mine. Where's this? Like, I just didn't see it. All right,
good being wrong on those ones.
It is because he was fantastic. All right, there's a bunch of these that that we've kind of touched on already. And just so everyone knows, like there's some general recruiting questions on here. I'm gonna have a show with Christian McCollum on Monday, and we're gonna talk about like there's a question on here about Rico Flores. I'm gonna have a show with Christian McCollum on Monday about the 2023 kids that are on campus right now for the June 10th official visit. So we'll get into the 2023 class like heavy on Monday. I think there was one more that I wanted to find here. This is a kind of a fun one from KS Irish Fan 966. We can end with this one. Have any signees of any programs in the past ever confided in you that they wish they had chosen to go to Notre Dame?
Well, not me personally. No one has ever gone to me and been like, man, Jamie, I got to tell you, I really wish I went to Notre Dame. No, yeah, no one has ever. I mean, there's definitely I've heard of guys over the years that have like, said that, and I think there's all go through the list of the years where Notre Dame finished second with guys, and there's a number of guys who regretted not picking Notre Dame. You could find a bunch of guys because for whatever reason it didn't work out at the previous school, or they're like, I chose this because of this certain reason or whatever, and it didn't work out. Yeah, I'm sure there's guys out there. I'm trying to think of specific guys that I can think of.
I'm thinking of one guy who I really wish had why can't I think of his name? I've been sitting here for the last 2 minutes trying to think of his name. The corner who who was committed to Notre Dame went to Stanford.
Paulson Adebo?
Paulson Adebo. I like going to Stanford. He probably had a really good time, but like he didn't play on the greatest teams, and the times he played Notre Dame smacked him. Yeah. And it's like Notre Dame was a playoff team that would have been really great if he was on that team, by the way. But yeah, Notre Dame was a playoff team when he went.
You know what? That is a good one because I wonder if he thought that because, like you said, for those football reasons. But I think the reason why he flipped to Stanford is because he wanted to go to school there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it was. I mean, he also thought the football team was.
He thought they would be better.
And
look,
and they have sucked
at the time. Fair, but like, yeah, ever since he got there,
it really
pretty bad team.
It's a shame too because he was a good player, right?
I mean, imagine him on the 2018 team.
Well, and I mean, that 2017, not having him, Elijah Hicks, and Thomas Graham, all three of those guys ended up being NFL draft picks.
Yeah.
And obviously the 0 corners Notre Dame signed ended up being NFL draft picks. So that was pretty big not getting any of them. Even just one of them could have really changed and helped Notre Dame a lot. So yeah, those are definitely like I actually like really enjoy looking back at like recruiting what ifs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. Like there's a lot of the times I don't know the guys who end up being really good. Like, like Thomas Graham ended up being really good at Oregon. Like they won a ton while he was there. Like they won a Rose Bowl, right? Like, do you think that he's really like, man, I really should have got that Notre Dame? I don't think so.
I think he probably had a great time.
Yeah. Right. So, I don't know. Like there's like, okay, someone throwing T Shepard or whatever, right? But like Deontay Greenberry went to Houston. Yes. Do I think he regrets going to Houston? No, I don't think so. I don't think because if you're going
he did numbers at Houston.
Yeah, he did.
He's a good player.
I mean, I'm sure he wished that he went to somewhere where he was like, could have like that he's playing in the league, and he didn't end up playing in the league, right? Or if he did, he got a cup of coffee. Like I'm sure he wished that, and he's thinking of that stuff, but I don't think he thinks twice about like, man, I should have went to Notre Dame. Like, I think honestly, it's more of like the Randy Moss thing where he's like, he signed. He was like his dream to go to Notre Dame. And obviously that one hurts the most for any Notre Dame fan because my God, I can't even imagine he would have been the best player of our lifetimes at Notre Dame.
He would, yes.
He would have been. He really, I mean, he's one of the best college football players of our lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So like, I actually kind of think that if he would have, and obviously stayed out of trouble, which maybe not possible, but if he would have, that would have changed Lou Holtz's legacy, and like they
Ron Paulus.
Oh yeah, Ron Paulus. Like Ron Paulus. I mean, he's not winning 2 Heismans, but maybe would have won one or been maybe we got invited to New York, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe then again, Randy's probably winning a Heisman if he's
Right.
probably at Notre Dame. So yeah, that's a killer.
Yeah. All right. With that, we will wrap it up for tonight. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Obviously, huge day for Notre Dame football. CJ Carr, 5-star quarterback, commits to Notre Dame football team 2024 class. Like I said, on Monday, I'm going to be going live with Christian McCullum in the morning, Monday morning for me, kind of mid-afternoon for people on the East Coast, talking about the guys on official visits right now, where the 2023 class is going. Like I said before, never listened to our show before, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. That really helps us out. Visit irishsportsdaily.com. There's a ton of content on the site right now, ton of stuff going on the message board, ton of good recruiting nuggets that you're going to want to get the info on, right? Matt and Christian do a really great job. So thank you everyone for tuning in tonight, and we will talk to you very soon.